Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Six-Sided Podcast. As usual, I'm your host, the Taxman. I'm going to adjust the camera here a little bit. There we go. There, that's a little bit better. Anyways, hey everybody, Taxman here, in association with WrestlingWithWrestling.com and the Pulse Podcast Network. This is another episode of the Six-Sided Podcast. And tonight we're going to be covering the Jim Cornette Impact Wrestling Saga news that came out this week. And as well, we are going to be talking about the Best of Impact Wrestling 2018. That was the list of performers that they had the fans vote on who they thought would be the best knockout, best wrestler, best X Division star, etc., etc. We're going to go over that list, and I'm just going to give my comments on that as well. As usual, if you guys have any comments, please leave them in the chat here if you are watching live on YouTube right now. Obviously, if you're catching this after the fact and you have comments, please leave them in the comment section on youtube.com/c/six-sided-podcast. This podcast will also be available after I'm done recording here on all the usual streaming services where you can buy, barter, steal, trade, whatever, the Six-Sided Podcast. So that would be Stitcher, iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Deezer, Google Podcasts. Basically anywhere you get your podcasts, type it in, Six-Sided Podcast. Make sure that you like and subscribe to those as well. And feel free to give a nice review, because I've had a couple of them I've seen on iTunes, and it's nice, right? So yeah, just don't be afraid to throw a review. Also, just wanted to say a quick shout out to our sponsor. The Pulse Podcast Network is now providing its listeners with a 10% discount off all merchandise from Jersey Express. They sell NBA and college jerseys plus player hoodies. Simply use the code PULSE at checkout. You can find them on Twitter at JerseyExpress_ and also JerseyExpress.com. And they actually have a crazy promotion on right now where it's 50% off, plus you get the 10% off with the Pulse Podcast code. So you don't even need to use Scott Steiner math to know that that's a hell of a deal. So once again, JerseyExpress.com or on Twitter at Jersey. Yeah, that's right. Jersey Express _ Sorry, I'm still getting used to this whole ad thing. It's going to be a journey, but whatever. If you can't laugh at yourself, then what the hell are you doing here? So, all right, let's get into the meat of the program here. And everybody's favorite, love to hate him or hate to love him, or however you want to say it, Mr. Jim Cornette was back in the news in terms of Impact Wrestling this past week, and had some, we'll say, not so becoming comments towards Impact Wrestling. If you are perhaps hiding under a rock, or maybe you've been offline for a little bit, or maybe you've been busy with family things, you know, Hanukkah was just, past us and all that kind of thing. So if you missed it, Impact Wrestling did a Twitch special in conjunction, I should say, with Rockstar Pro. This would have been on Friday, December, I guess that would have been December 14th. So in case you don't know, maybe you're new to Impact Wrestling, they've been doing these one-night-only Twitch specials in conjunction with different wrestling organizations, such as Border City Wrestling. They've done one with, I believe they're called FSW, that's in Las Vegas. Anyways, it's essentially a way to get their product out there without all the expense of, having the whole television crew production. It's a free show on Twitch, so it's just a great way to spread Impact Wrestling as a brand to people who may have not seen them before, especially if these people are watchers of said program that they are in conjunction with. It just gives them more exposure. It gives more exposure to the local event, and it gets everybody a nice payday, we'll say. So they run the event with Rockstar Pro, which, by the way, and I haven't watched it myself. I just flat out haven't had time to do it, but I've heard that it's been a tremendous event, or that it was a tremendous event, and it definitely is one that I'm going to watch. But unfortunately, as things seem to happen with Impact, there was one we'll say, unfortunate piece of business that came out of this. So, in case you didn't see the clip, I know that there was a couple of them. Essentially, Stone Rockwell, who is an Impact contracted wrestler, was wrestling the professional athlete John Murray it was a comedy match. That's what it was. I need to preface everything I'm going to say with, I'm not very familiar with Rockstar Pro or Wrestle Pro. So I don't know what kind of events they usually run, if they're, a comedy style wrestling company or what their deal is. But essentially they had a comedy match, and this professional athlete, I'm keep using these in quotation marks, John Murray is a comedy wrestler. He's worked for DDT. If anybody doesn't know that, they are essentially an entire company based out of Japan that does comedy wrestling. That's where you see all the infamous, Invisible Man spots and hand grenades and blow up dolls and whatever. That comes from that promotion, and that's or guys wrestling a broomstick. Right, inanimate objects. They have titles that have ridiculous stipulations. I think they had one title that changed hands like 10 or 15 times in just one night, and there's one title that's somebody's held like 150 times. Like, it's just, that's the style of wrestling that this company does. And obviously it's far removed from what we see here in North America. And I'm not saying it's good, bad, or indifferent. If you like it, that's what you like, and the people who like it a lot. But what happened at this event was a comedy match between, like I said, Stone Rockwell and the professional athlete. Now, unfortunately, it was broken down into clips that were shared on Twitter. And as we all know, what happens with Impact Wrestling, nobody ever talks about the good things that happen at a show or the real holy shit moments at a show. It's clips like this, and one in particular that was obviously shared to Jim Cornette, because everybody knows that if you send something to Jim Cornette, he's going to see it, and he's going to blow a fucking gasket and cut a promo, and the internet's a lively place for 3, 4, 5 days, whatever. So sends the clip of the professional athlete running the ropes, we'll say, and kind of stepping over Stone Rockwell, going to the outside and faking like he's going to do a dive, and he gingerly goes down because he's not the most fit gentleman or the most slender, if you'll say. So obviously this thing was taken out of complete context, as most things are. So as you would expect, Jim Cornette kind of got into this on Twitter. So he sends out a tweet after he sees this. Was assuming this was a rib and not a real Impact Wrestling show. I see I was wrong. Sorry, guys, I like some of your employees, but putting this unprofessional fat fuck on the air is one of the many reasons why your business has the stink of grisly death on it. Hashtag disgusting, hashtag shameful. And he went on to cut promos on various people who responded to him on Twitter, as you would expect, followed by, I'm sure, blocking said people. Now, I have, and it didn't stop there. I before I get any further, I also needed to address this. So he also went on Jim Cornette Drive-Thru. Now, if anybody's not familiar with this is a program that airs on Mondays where essentially fans email in questions to him and Brian Last. He answers them on air, and that's the crux of the show. So somebody had emailed him a question. What does Jim Cornette think of the current roster of Impact talent? And the person asking the question brought up names like LAX, Ali, Su Young, among others. And Cornette basically said, well, I would have said that they're doing a great job until what he saw on Twitter from whoever sent him these random clips taken out of context from this match. So he goes on to a whole spiel about how Impact Wrestling can fuck off, and just it was a Cornette. Almost enough said. If you ever seen a Cornette promo on something he hates, you've seen them all, and you know exactly what happened here. But it wound up with how he's friends with Dawn, but he hates what they're doing with the product, and blah 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 blah. Basically, he's taking his whole supposition that this entire Impact Wrestling show, which it wasn't, was just a big comedy fuckfest, and they had just bullshit like this on the whole show, which is not the case. The one thing that he does have a point with, and you can disagree with me all you want on this one, but that's fine, I suppose. I saw some other clips from that show, namely from the women's tag match. There was a spot with it was like a second rope tombstone. It looked fucking incredible. And there was another spot or another portion of the show that I saw in a clip with OVE in the middle of the ring. I'm assuming that this was at the end of the night. And the crowd is fucking going nuts, and they all start pouring into the ring. All the fans start pouring into the ring. And it's such an incredible visual. OVE in the middle of the ring, in the middle of Ohio, with fans fucking going insane in the ring. Those two clips made me want to watch that Twitch show. Not the comedy spot and whatever, right? So it's unfortunate that, obviously the comedy one is getting talked about. Like, even I'm doing a fucking thing about it now, right? It's unfortunate that that's the thing that's getting talked about coming out of this show, and not the other tremendous talent that was featured on the show. Like I said, that women's match, I want to see that. I heard that there was a fantastic tag match as well. And I'm not sure what the Rockstar Pro tag team was, but I heard that the match was incredible. So I want to check the show out for those. I wish that those portions of the show would have been used by Impact, by everybody else involved, to put over the fact that Impact is doing these one night onlys and these Twitch specials, rather than putting so much steam behind, the comedy thing. And then look what happens, right? Now, all you're doing is giving ammunition to all the people that go LOL TNA, and they're on Reddit and they're on Twitter and they're, making videos about it. Oh, look at this fucking company, and they got this fat fuck on here, and these guys are a bunch of jokes, and they don't treat wrestling seriously, which is actually the furthest thing from the truth. If anybody had watched any Impact Wrestling this past year, or this past even goddamn 5 months, almost without fault, all the storylines on Impact Wrestling right now are all serious adult-themed storylines. They're all rooted in deep personal issues. There's no funny business, except for a little bit with, Scarlett Bordeaux and Fall Out and whatever, things like that. But it's not, haha, this place is a joke funny. It's comedy to break up or add some lividity to the situation of the show being so dark, and it really is. You look at all the feuds, like, prime example is with Dark Alley is the absolute prime example of this, right? This is the way that the show is being written and run now. It's taken very seriously on Impact Wrestling television. Just, once again, this match on a Twitch channel show is now being used to, pigeonhole Impact Wrestling as, look at them, they're still doing goofy shit, and who's fucking writing the show? Is Russo back? Is he not? They're still doing comedy fucking spots, and it's a joke. The furthest thing from the truth. But unfortunately, and this is the problem I have with what I like to term clip wrestling, and we see it all the time. You saw it here. You see it when some independent guy, unfortunately crashes and burns and injures himself, or maybe somebody else. Or you see it when, these hardcore deathmatch guys are going through fucking 80 things of light tubes in a barbed wire ring, which, like, I have to say that's not my thing. Legitimately, when I see like that, when you see that little picture on Twitter, and you can clearly see like what direction this thing is going, I don't bother watching it because it's not something I'm interested in. But it sure seems to me today that it's just like, it's way easier to post, 5, 10, 15, or 20 seconds of this clip taken completely out of context, so nobody has any idea what was actually happening with the match. Maybe these two people really did hate each other, that are going through fucking light tubes and barbed wire and whatever, and this was the only way, and somebody was going out of the territory, or it was a retirement, or what the fuck ever. Lord knows Terry Funk, for example, has done about 100 of those. But all of these clips just get taken out of context, and they're the ones that get shared around social media. They're the ones that get, 100,000 views, and everybody talking about, oh, this guy's a fucking idiot because he tried a, shooting star press line on his neck, or this guy's dumb as fuck because he, power drove somebody on the outside through a table and the table didn't break, or whatever. Like, shit happens. unfortunately, it is all reduced to this clip wrestling. It just gets shared, and the whole cycle starts all over again. And it's rinse, wash, repeat. The same people target the same clips with the same shit to say about them all the time. And unfortunately, this one Impact clip was targeted by Jim Cornette and people like him who just, that's not their thing. Obviously, it's not really my thing either, but I wouldn't fucking go off on Twitter about it like that. Although I will say it was funny. I think Joey Ryan had the line of whatever. He essentially shot the professional athlete a tweet saying, don't worry with the way that Jim Cornette has been, talking about guys like this, you'll be making $1 million right away or some fucking thing like that. Anyways, I thought it was tremendous, but just a little, that whole Joey Ryan and Cornette thing just continually feeds on itself. And obviously that's always just a good time in general. The other thing that I wanted to talk about tonight is the Impact Wrestling Best of 2018. So they came out with fan polls for the best wrestlers in a select amount of categories for this past year of 2018. So I'm going to run through these. If you guys agree with these, or if you think somebody else should have been mentioned or talked about or whatever, because there's a couple that I have a couple of things to say about, but make sure you leave it in the comments section. I will definitely make sure that I get to those in the course of this show. So without further ado, one of the first ones they had was the one to watch in 2019, as voted by the fans, is Killer Kross. Now, I can't really disagree with that. Killer Kross, for my money, is probably the most intriguing character they have on Impact Wrestling right now. In terms of, you don't know everything that he's about, right? It just has this sociopathic, like, dark side to him. It just, like, you can never read him, right? Never really shows emotion outside of, anger when he's fucking destroying somebody. But he never shows empathy. He's like almost the most unrelatable person to the fans on the show, because nobody, as far as I know, is a hitman who watches the show. So you can relate to somebody like Sami Callihan to a point. You can relate to somebody like Brian Cage to a point. Maybe not in stature, but in personality, right? You can relate to somebody like Johnny Impact, right? You can relate to somebody like Tessa or Taya or whoever, right? But you really can't relate to Killer Kross almost at all. The way that he delivers his promos, the way that they have him set up to work in the ring, the way that he presents himself in the ring, like, the whole less is more thing is working tremendously for him. And definitely you cannot argue that he's the one to watch in 2019. Although for myself personally, I will say that a close second to this is Kiera Hogan. I really am curious to see if they are going to, we'll say, let the leash loose a little bit with her in this whole Dark Alley storyline that they have going on. I really think that if they give her a little bit of latitude and a lot more, we'll say, time and effort to develop her character on screen, because she's got the tools in the ring. For as green as she is in the industry, I think she's pretty spot on in the ring, but just need to see a little bit more to her in terms of promos and things like that. If they can give her the reins a little bit, and if they can fully develop her this coming year, I can really see her stepping up and being another one to watch in 2019. Once again, leave your comments in the comments section if you agree or disagree, or if there's somebody else that you think should be making that one to watch in 2019 list. So another one that came out, and this one was fairly obvious, was the 2018 Tag Team of the Year, and that was LAX. Now, obviously, these guys have done everything. Like, they've done everything. They've done barbed wire matches and fucking that 5150 street fights, and they even saved little Jimmy or whatever the kid's name was from that whole OG's LAX feud. They've worked with everybody. They adapt all of their matches to match whoever they're working with in the ring. honestly, Santana, from watching him in 2017, and I know we keep talking about him, but I really do think that he's been just leaps and bounds has been incredible. From 2017 to 2018, he's taken just a meteoric rise in the way that he works in the ring and the way that he presents himself in the ring. And obviously Ortiz is no slouch. Like, these two just as a team work so cohesively, and they just everything looks so good. And obviously the street sweeper is like the fucking greatest finish. Like, oh my God, it looks so good every single time they hit it. Obviously, close behind, a little bit behind them would be OVE, the Chris brothers. Just once again, two guys that have just been able to feud with everybody. They can match up style-wise with anybody you throw at them in the ring. It doesn't matter if it's a tag team or a six-man or whatever. They just never lose a step. And Jake Chris is just like the flying squirrel, man. The fucking cutters out of nowhere. It's awesome. But yeah, LAX as tag team of the year, you really can't argue that one. There's almost nothing they didn't do. And once again, with Konnan as the ringleader, it's just, man, what can you say? Like, they deserve it 100%. So we also had the X Division Wrestler of the Year, and that went to Brian Cage. Now, this one is one that I don't necessarily agree with, although I will say that there's not been anybody in the X Division that really, really, really stepped up this year, although I will say that for my money, it was Matt Sydal. Just his progression from, kind of vanilla babyface in 2017 to this whole the third eye heel, now being paired with Ethan Page. Just, I think that him as a character and how he's developed and kind of climbed the ladder here in Impact Wrestling. To me, I think he should have been the X Division guy or X Division Star of the Year. I understand why a lot of people would choose Brian Cage, because he's the fucking machine and the guy's crazy. And he does so many good or so many incredible moves, and every time you watch him, there's something different. But me personally, I thought it was Matt Sydal. Maybe you guys think differently. Obviously, let me know. We also had our Knockout of the Year, and once again, this one is kind of cut and dry. Tessa Blanchard has been just on an incredible roll in 2018. Her title run has been one of the best knockout title runs that I've seen in Impact Wrestling in, oh God, easily 5 years. There's been some pretty champions that they've had there. Not a fucking chance with her. She is 100% legit. I love the way that they just reinvent her every pay-per-view and every other month. They're adding all these layers to her character, right? Sometimes she's super aggressive. Sometimes she can't believe that somebody kicks out of something. She gets tentative. She shows emotion in the ring. Her moves are incredible. The Buzzsaw DDT, that thing is fucking beautiful. Tessa Blanchard, for my money, I hope that she has a very successful title run in 2019. For a long time, not a long time. We're not. It's winter here. There's nobody's cutting the grass anyways. But there was a period of time there where it was kind of hot potato with the, Knockouts title between Laurel Von Ness. Nah, didn't really do it for me. I know a lot of other people liked her. She never did it for me. Allie had the title, same thing. I don't think she was ready at that time, and I had made the point way back when she was champ that there's something about her that I just couldn't buy into, and I always felt like the crowd just never connected with her as champ. Su Yung was an interesting champ, but again, it was just they would go so far with her as champ and then kind of pull back a little bit. I wasn't a fan of everything they did with Su Yung, although I did like a lot of the character development, but like they've legitimately hit a home run with Tessa Blanchard, with the promos, the way that she sets up feuds. I know going back to Bound for Glory when she had the title match with Taya and everybody's like, oh, there's no build, this is going to be awful and blah, blah, blah. That was legitimately my favorite match on that show. And this whole feud that they've now started afterwards and is now coming again to fruition at Homecoming is just, that's how you can build a feud with no build going into something, but coming out of it is where you make something special happen. And I think these two are going to deliver again at Homecoming. So yeah, Tessa Blanchard, well-deserved to as the 2018 knockout of the year, although she's going to have some very stiff competition coming up to 2019 with Taya back on the roster full-time, with Rosemary eventually coming back, with the emergence of Su Yung, with the... Sorry, I had a phone call there. Also with the emergence of Jordan Grace. She's going to have some stiff competition in 2019, so we'll see where she goes with it. And then, obviously, last but not least, we have Sami Callihan as the Wrestler of the Year. And this one, to me, there's no debate. I've said this on several programs that he has far and away been the MVP for Impact Wrestling. He took legitimately a freak accident and got a year's story out of it. And not just with one person, right? Not just with Eddie Edwards. He jumped from, you know, several different facets of that Eddie Edwards feud, right? Then he jumps into the feud with Pentagon Jr. Now he's feuding with the Lucha Brothers. Now, you know, he jumps into the Brian Cage situation. Just, in 2018, he just continually reinvented himself, continually reinvented what Sami Callihan can bring into the ring as well as outside the ring. Change his promos a little bit, change his look. Obviously, getting the head shaved and at Slammiversary was a big part of that, but he's done everything. Every single feud that he's been in, he's put that other person over. And they came out looking way better than they were going into it. And Eddie Edwards obviously is the biggest one because, let's face it, he was kind of floundering after 2017. Part of that is management at the time. Part of it is just, you know, after the Wolves separated, he was just kind of there. Yeah, he's great in the ring, but who is Eddie Edwards? And now he's just taken off, and it's been incredible. Obviously, the wars with Pentagon Jr., we can go on and on and on about that. And I'm not really one for gimmick matches, as I said before, but still that match at Slammiversary is one of the matches of the year, like, just incredible. So you get no argument from me. Sami Callihan is the MVP of Impact Wrestling 2018. Signed, sealed, delivered, not even close in my opinion. So those are my thoughts on the class of 2018, or the Impact's best of class of 2018. I see there's a couple of comments in the comment section, so we'll just get through these quickly. Jim Hall Francis, Kiera Hogan will be champ in 2020. I wonder what they will do with Rosemary when she comes back. See, and that's what I want to see as well. First off, Kiera Hogan, I totally agree, could definitely be Knockouts champ in 2020. Once again, if they give her enough latitude and give her enough character development and let her be her, because they really don't have a top babyface in the Knockouts division. Taya's, like, obviously Taya's over and she's a babyface, but she's not like you hate the term, but like a squeaky clean babyface, like a goody two shoes babyface. She's not that. Obviously, Rosemary's not. There's nobody like that on the roster, so that's a big void that Kiera Hogan can step in. And I know a lot of people might say, like, oh, you know, that type of babyface doesn't fly anymore, but it would if it was done properly, because it's so different than what's going on now. Everybody's doing the shades of gray thing, right? If you had somebody who came out and did the real babyface role really well, it would get over, because it would be so much different from what you've seen lately in all forms of professional wrestling. So I'd like to see, once again, her champ in 2020. Let's see if it happens. I wouldn't be surprised if it did. Once again, Jim Hall Francis, Seidel deserved X Division Star of the Year. I agree. He made that title great again. He really did. Once again, like, and I talked about it with the Knockouts title, that it was kind of a hot potato there for a while. The X Division title was no different. It was just, it was there, right? There was no prestige with it. There was nobody that wanted to be the X Division title, and there was nobody that held the title that made it feel very important that they were the X Division champ until Matt Sydal had it, and he had a fantastic run with it. Just there's almost nothing that he didn't do with the title that didn't make that title mean more, if that makes sense. I know it's kind of a convoluted answer, but to me, that's the way that I look at it. And yeah, that's why if it was up to me, then he would be the Impact X Division Star of the Year. But it's not up to just me, and that's okay too. You know, obviously that's the great thing about this company is that they allow so much fan interaction with, like, in every facet of it, whether it's the surveys that they do, or whether it's ways that they do the teleconferences, or the ways that they interact with people on the Twitch shows. Like, they do so much for the fans in terms of fan interaction. It makes people want to be a part of the company. And I had said this, I want to say, 4 or 5 months ago, when they were doing the We Are Impact, kind of hashtag on social media. I said at that time that they should really make a conceited effort to make Impact kind of a community place for the fans, to really have a place for the fans to voice their opinions and thoughts on the product. And obviously they've been listening to that. Obviously, they're not using the hashtag anymore. That's kind of irrelevant now, but just that's how you kind of build a company back from the ground, or back from the ashes, if you will. It's from the ground up, ground support, and build it up. And you really are seeing that in 2018 with their social media numbers, with everything that they've done on YouTube, with Twitter, Twitch, just everything is just been above and beyond anything that they were ever accomplishing before in the company. And obviously we'll see where it goes in the future. All right, cool, man. 952. Who do you want Impact to sign in 2019? Well, the obvious one is the Elite, but I don't think that that's happening. Legitimately, so are we going to go with if for knockouts? And I'm not sure what her contract situation is right now, but Britt Baker, I'm tongue-tied. Britt Baker, to me, is one. If they were able to sign anybody from the independents, if they could sign her, that would be an incredible asset. I watched her. I've actually seen a few matches of hers, but recently I watched her wrestle at the Blackcraft Cult event. This would have been in October. And she actually wrestled for their new women's title. She actually wrestled Paige's mom, and it was a pretty good match. But I understand that she just finished school. She has her dentistry degree. I'm not sure what that means for her in terms of traveling or being a part of the company, but perhaps being an Impact would work the way that they schedule TV tapings. Maybe it's a fit. Maybe it's not. Maybe there's, who knows? Because it seems like fucking WWE is signing everybody with a pulse nowadays to keep them from going to any other place like Impact or Ring of Honor or whatever. So maybe she's on the road there. I don't think so, but yeah, Britt Baker for me is one that I would like to see them take a run at least in 2018. Jimmy Havoc, I think, is a really interesting one too. But again, I'm not sure what his contract situation is like in the UK, so I'm not sure if that's a 100% fit. Obviously, he was a part of the Impact UK Twitch special that they did. I want to say that was in November, so there is some familiarity with them with that there. Actually, another one that just came to mind is Jessica Havoc, because I really think that she would fit in perfectly with the OVE guys. And God damn it, what the fuck is going on with Diamante? Legitimately, they need to get her back in the company, because she is one of the most dynamic female wrestlers on the planet, bar none. The way that she moves in the ring, just everything about her is incredible. her personality and the way that she presents herself is so different because of where she comes from. It's really is a flavor that they're missing in Impact Wrestling. And I don't know if she's signed, if she's not, if she's there, if she's gone. I don't know, and nobody seems to be talking about her. But God damn it, Impact. You need, like, Diamante should be a big-time player with that company. So there's 3 knockouts right there. Could you imagine with the knockouts that they already have, right? You get Rosemary back. Jordan Grace, obviously, they're building big time. If you have all of those pieces, now you add in Brittany Baker. Now you add in Jessica Havoc. Now you add in Diamante. My God. Like, talk about reaching new heights with the knockout division. And I've said this for a while. The knockout division, in my opinion, is the best that it has been and the strongest that it has been in, easily 5 years. In terms of who they have there, how they're being booked, more importantly, and how much latitude they're being given in terms of developing their own characters and their own storylines. And obviously, I think a big part of that is Gail Kim being a part of that, because she's been through the ringer and she knows how much support these girls should get and deserve to get. And it's finally nice to see them getting all this, essentially. I'm trying to think if there's any other big names on the independents that I would like to see. Obviously, a soft spot for me, although I don't know that it would ever happen, would be Danny Duggan here from Winnipeg. I know he had a tryout with Impact a long time ago, but I'm sure that none of you have probably seen him wrestle before, but he's a character. And he's got probably the most tremendous theme song entrance song, not theme song, that I've ever seen in wrestling. Honestly, I'm actually going to a CWE show on January 4th. So that's going to be a hell of a day for me, because I'm going to wake up at 2 a.m. to watch Wrestle Kingdom, then go to work, come home, see my kids for a bit, and go to the CWE show, because actually Tommy Dreamer is going to be there as well. But I'm going to take a video of Danny Duggan's entrance with the music and the fanny pack. Is like, oh my God, it's one of the greatest things in professional wrestling. I'm going to do that video. I'm going to throw it up on the YouTube page and on Twitter and everything like that. So you guys can enjoy it, because it's really, nobody does it quite like him. And to me, he's somebody who would fit in quite well in that company if he's ever gets a shot. So we'll see what happens. All right, I think that's about it for comments in the section. If there's any that come up last minute, obviously put them in there and I'll get to them. But just want to mention again, with the Pulse Podcast Network, you can get a 10% discount off all merchandise from Jersey Express, all your favorite NBA and college jersey plus player hoodies. Simply use the code PULSE at checkout. And once again, you can find them on Twitter at Jersey Express _. Once again, www.wrestlingwithwrestling.com is where you can go for all of your wrestling interviews, news, and everything like that. As well, if you're listening to this on Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, or anywhere else, you can also follow or find us on youtube.com/c/6sidedpodcast. And as well, don't forget to follow me on Twitter at 6_podcast. For myself, the Taxman, for wrestlingwithwrestling.com, and for the Pulse Podcast Network, I will say, as I say every night, take care of yourselves and each other. Good night, everyone.